All right, in this video, I'm going to show you how you can export from Sales Navigator and then put your list into Clay. And then once within Clay, how you can find, enrich, get email addresses, validate the email addresses, and score the companies, or just basically filter them for the companies that you want to go after. And then also, once you've done that, then be able to push them into your campaign. So let's get stuck into this. So first things first, I'm going to build a list on Sales Nav. I'm going to do this as a full walkthrough. This is my task for today, and I'm going to show you exactly. I'm just going to walk you through the whole process. So let's start off with, who do we want to target? We're going after 1 to 10, 11 to 50. So we're going after slightly smaller firms. So our list that we're going to be building here is for private equity. So we're just going to be building a list of private equity firms, basically, that are slightly smaller. So let's have a look and see. So we've got current job title, and put in founder, CEO, managing partner, managing director, that's the owner as well. Cool. And then we want to remove assistant. Execute in case that comes up. Cool. Now what we're going to do is we want these to be in the UK. Kingdom, move that, and then industry, we're just going to put in private venture capital, private equity. Right, so this is a relatively simple search. We're not going to do any like Boolean or anything like that. But yeah, so once we've got a list, I'm going to obviously check and see. So family office, fundraising bootcamp. So yeah, so here's like a perfect example. We're going to have like things like this, which is a boot camp, which is not, we don't want to be targeting those, right? Sometimes, by all means, you could probably maybe remove this with Boolean search, but sometimes it doesn't quite work for whatever reason, like with Sales Nav, or maybe I'm just not the absolute best at Sales Nav. But yeah, so this is why Clay would come in handy, because we can take that list into Clay and then we can get rid of some of these companies, because we've got about 2K results. We obviously want to make sure that the list is mostly good before we do that, because otherwise you're just going to be wasting a whole bunch of stuff when you export this list. But yeah, you get the point. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to make sure that this in general seems pretty good. Let me do that. Let me remove any. I'm going to actually remove a few because there might be a lot of not, and then put recruitment, because there might be recruitment companies or staffing or talent. So again, we can remove this in Clay, but I want to make sure that I'm not wasting money with export the wrong, like a whole bunch of the wrong people, basically. But yeah, this seems a little bit better. Cool. Yeah, I might just check on the second page just to make sure this is all good. Capital, advisors, capital. Yeah, in general, cool, that seems good. There's probably some in there that might not be a good fit, and that's exactly why I want to show you this whole process, so that we can actually take this list, remove, filter, enrich, and everything within Clay. Of course, we've got all that. Right, so there's two ways that we can do this. We can either, copy and paste this link. So we can take this link and we can go into Clay, create a new workbook. Let's just title this VC private equity. And we go to find people. And then if you go over to method here, you have two options. You have search query, which is your regular. You can build a list and do the filters and everything here, or you can pull an external list, and then this is where you can copy paste this in, right? And then you can click import to new people. Now the only thing is every row, so obviously this search is going to be about 2,000. So if you're pulling in from Sales Nav, obviously the maximum you can pull it in is about 2.5K from any search. That's from Sales Nav side. So yeah, if you wanted to do this, you would just copy paste it in here, but it is one row or one credit per row. And then you can obviously set limits and stuff, and then you just import in the table. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is doing it a bit more manually. So I would actually just click export with Prospio, which will take me to an export screen. So you can get that by just signing up to Prospio. And then once you've signed up to Prospio, you should be able to get the Chrome extension, I believe. And then once you've got the Chrome extension, you should be able to see it pop up. So I would just name this list like PE1, and then you can just click export. Cool. And then once you've clicked export, you're just going to have to wait a little bit. So it says here estimated time 21 minutes. So I'm just going to pause the video and then I'll come back to it afterwards. And then once we've got the list, we can put it into Clay and then start enriching, filtering, and all that kind of stuff. All right, so now that's done, we'll need to put this into Clay. The only thing I need to just kind of clarify here as well is to make sure that if you want to export a full list, that you have duplicates turned off. Just because, yeah, so you can see here, skip duplicates, yes. So I had it enabled, which means that list now is only about 400. But if I click on this little preview button here, it'll tell you that this lead was skipped because it was extracted at a certain point. So if you don't want that to be the case, then you can just toggle that off when you're setting it up, right, in the previous step. So in this case, we've only got 400 leads, like new leads that have been extracted, and you can see here how many valid emails that we got, how many risky and how many not found, right? So in Clay, we want to now try and validate and find the not found and risky ones. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to download the list. I would download full list. Cool. So now that's done, let's go back into Clay and let's go import from CSV. So I'm going to have to go back through and go through this list and basically just remove the duplicate function because I actually want the full list. So yeah, but you get the point. Cool. Now we have the list in Clay, so you can see all of the columns that we have. There's quite a few extra ones that we don't necessarily need. I don't know if there's an optional way to toggle that off within Prospeo right now. There might be. I'm not sure. You'd have to look into that. But normally I just clean it up once it's in Clay. So yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah, so here we've got the email, here we've got the status. We obviously don't want to do any of the catch-all ones, so I'm going to set a formula, and I'll do that in a second. Cool. So the first thing we want to do here is, just for my sake, is probably just clean up the list a little bit. So when I say that, I mean just like removing anything that we don't need. So I would just go through here and I would just like delete columns that we don't need. Right, I'm going to pause this while I do. Cool. All right, so I've just tidied it up a little bit. If you ever want to open that up, you can click over to the column section here, and then you can like basically toggle on and off what you want to see. So from this, there's a lot of companies in here that are not a fit for some reason. So maybe in future I need to do a bit better job of building the list here in Sales Nav, just because, I mean, even though I've put industry as that industry, it's coming up with a lot of weird industries like staffing and stuff, even though obviously we don't want this, like art supplies, photography. No idea why. So if anyone's got any tips, maybe I need to look into building slightly better lists on Sales Nav. But anyways, so the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we're reaching out to the right people, right? So this is where Clay really comes in handy, where we've got our data source now, which is from Sales Nav, and then you can change that from Sales Nav, Apollo, like Crunchbase, like any data source, put that into Clay, so we can now filter it so that we can go after the most targeted accounts that we actually want to go after, right? So in order to do that, there's a couple different ways that we can do it. So we have here company LinkedIn description, which is basically the about section on the company's LinkedIn. And this gives us some insights. So we could, for example, one process would be to use AI to essentially analyze this and then just say, based on this, this is what a private equity company does. This is what a VC company does. Does this fit with that criteria? And if it's a no, then obviously they don't go through to the next step. Right now, not everything is here, right? So you can see that some of these aren't here, right? They're empty. So what we'd need to do then is a conditional formula. Now, in order to do a conditional formula, which will essentially say, like, if this is empty, by the way, so if this is empty, then choose another route, right? So the way that we do that is we would research the company website instead. So if the information or content is already there and it's full of good information of what we can analyze, then we'll use that. If that information is not there, then we'll go on to the next step, which is to look at the company website and then to understand, based on the company website, are they a fit, are they not a fit, right? So, but you can see here, we've got the domain and then we've got the website. Now, some of them, we've got domain that are like not empty, and we've got some that are empty. So from the website. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge the two together so that we have the largest amount of actual links. And then I'm going to use Clay to try and find any new websites that might be associated with the company. So I'm going to put / in here, go over to merge column, / in here, and I'm going to put domain, and then I'm going to put website, right? So it's just going to merge the two columns together. Cool, and then I can put website URL, right? And then I'm just going to change this to actually be the URL. Cool. So now we've got the most amount of websites that, now we've got all the websites that were within domain and website here. So, but you can see, for example, here, this was empty and this is not. So we want to make sure that they're all in one place, right? So once that's done, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add enrichment. I'm going to go domain, and I'm going to go find domain, because we're going to need to get these for finding email addresses anyways. So it's always good to have a full list, or as full a list of the websites as possible. So what it's going to do is going to use the company name as an input and then try and find the company website based on the company name. And then I'm going to put in a conditional formula here. So I'm going to say only run if, and then / website URL is empty. So basically, if the website URL is empty, as in they don't have a website, we'll try and find the website, right? Very simple. So output's correct, and then I'm going to save and run this on 10 rows. Cool. So I'm going to pause that whilst it does its thing. So you can see now that it's output a few. Just for context as well. So this first step, clear bit, doesn't cost you a Clay credit. If it moves to second step, as in no result found, it'll move to second step. This here, which is find the name via Google, this will cost you, I think, 1 or 2 credits. And then this one here will cost you 2 credits if it gets to that place, but obviously it's not gotten to that place. So that is all good. What I want to do is I want to make sure that the name is actually correct. So I will pin the company name. So I've got that here. And then I will just check and make sure that this is actually like pretty good quality, like as in they match up, right? Arkston's, yeah, cool. So they seem to be relatively correct, right? But if you're noticing, for example, they're completely different and just like pulling up a wrong website, then obviously you need to get a gauge. And then if it's incorrect, then you might need to tweak some things. But in this case, it's all good. So I'm just going to click here. I'm going to click run all the rows. So I'm just going to let that run, right, and do its thing. So whilst that's running, the next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to start to create a prompt around basically what the company does, right? So understanding and analyzing, are they a good fit for us or not, right? So the way that I usually do that is go to add enrichment. I'm going to go to use AI. Right, so first things first, use case. We don't want to do web research because we're not using or visiting an external link. The data that we have is currently in Clay. So if the data is currently in Clay, we want to use content creation / manipulation, right? Because the data that we're analyzing is in Clay. If it's not in Clay and we want it to go and research outside of Clay, i.e. via a URL, then that's when we do web research, which is Claygen. All right, so we're going to click in here. It's a basic task, so 4.0 mini is going to be fine. Cool, and then I would generate. So your task is to analyze the company description from LinkedIn and determine if the company is a private equity or venture capital firm. If they are, then output yes. If they are not, then output no. And then what I'm going to do, because I want to give it context, is I will go into Claude and I will ask it to give me a full summary in 100 words of what a private equity or venture capital firm does. Also outline what they do not do as well. Make it clear and concise. Cool. So I want to get this because I want to get context on what this actually does, because otherwise then you're just relying basically on it to figure out what private equity and venture capital firm does, and obviously change this out for whatever your criteria is, right? So the goal here is anyways just to give it context, because when you're using the models here directly within Clay, they have no context. They're just given the prompt, but they have no context whatsoever. And obviously if you use ChatGPT or anything, you know that context is super important. So the more context that you can provide it, the better it's going to do. So cool. And then I'm going to click copy. This is what a private equity or venture capital firm does. Oh, okay, maybe actually also, because there might be family offices, also outline what a family office does. Cool. So now I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste this into here as well. And then I'm going to click generate. So Clay's meta prompter, if you want to call it, does a really good job of being able to build out what a prompt basically. Cool. So, and then I'm going to accept the prompt as long as it's decent. I'm going to test it out, and I'm basically going to say, okay, cool. Analyze the company LinkedIn description, and okay, cool. Cool. That seems fine. Let's test this out. So I'm going to save. I'm going to run it on 10 rows. Cool. So you can see now it's just outputting yes or no, right? And then we can check obviously some of these. So we go to the company description. All right, so it's perfect. Invest, obviously, yeah, that's perfect. So that's exactly what we want. Of course, we've got yes, yes. I want to check the yeses. Fintech focused venture capital fund. Yeah, perfect. Cool. Yes. As a integrated global sovereign and venture capital. Yeah, perfect. Cool. Right. And then we want to check the no's just to make sure that they're not. So this is, I think I remember, it was a recruitment company. Yeah, recruitment. No. Property, invest. I mean, they invest, but it's real estate and things like that. So we don't want to go after that. Cool. Yeah. So perfect. Right. So it's got it pretty correct. Now, obviously, the issue here is we have only got access to the company LinkedIn descriptions, right? Now, obviously, some of these are empty, so we don't necessarily want that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to combine and merge all of the domains, the new ones that we've got and found, and then we're going to extract information from there, and then we're also going to determine whether or not they are a good fit company. Cool. So now that we've got website URL here, domain here, we need them all in one place. So we're going to merge those columns again. I'm going to come back to here. I'm going to go website URL, and then we're going to go domain here and domain. Cool. And then we're going to save. Cool. And then we're just going to website URL main. Cool. Text URL. Right, perfect. So now you see we've got a much larger list of companies that we can now go and extract information from. Now, obviously, for the ones that have the LinkedIn description, we don't need to do that because the information is already there, so there's no need to do extra steps. But for the ones that don't have this, so inputs missing, we're now going to, so currently we have a hit rate of about 60%. If we do this step, we'll have a hit rate of 100%, right? So we have more leads in our list that are a better fit. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to analyze the website. So configure. Your task is to analyze the website URL main and to extract a summary of what the company does. Also, I appreciate that with my tapping, with the writing, it might be a little bit loud, so maybe need to fix that in future. Is to analyze the website URL main and extract a summary of what the company does in 100 words. Extract exactly what is on the main homepage of the site and nothing else. In 100 to 300 words. Cool. The reason why I want to break it down, even though AI could probably do the job, I just want it to be more accurate. And usually if you do 2 steps instead of 1 step, right? Because ultimately what I could say is go onto the website, determine if they're a company, if they're a good fit or not. Now you can do that and that's absolutely fine. Just I prefer personally to do 2 steps where I extract the information and then with that information, I then ask it to analyze that information rather than going to the website, analyzing it and doing all that stuff. It can still do that. It's just my personal preference. So you can do that if you want. All right, you don't need to do 2 different steps here. We want to make sure that the input here is correct, provided in, and then we want to make sure that the input is actually the right one. So this is the main one. Let's remove that. Cool. I should have probably just clarified that. I think it got it wrong. Main, if main. Okay. Right, so we don't need this part. Cool. Perfect. And then put this main. Okay, cool. Perfect. So what we've got here, we want to make sure that, okay, we have web research because we need to go to an external URL. And then we have, we don't need, it's not a complicated task. So 4.0 mini is fine. So URL main. Cool. And then I'm also going to put in a conditional. So only run if, and then basically LinkedIn company description is empty, right? So we only want to run this. Obviously, this is a second step or fallback if the LinkedIn description is empty. So I'm going to save and run that on 10 rows. I always recommend running on 10 rows just so we can double check and make sure everything's all good. So again, you can see now it's running on just the ones that are missing here, right? So we're getting now a full, more complete list of data through different enrichments, what's called waterfall enrichments, because we have multiple steps. So if something can't find something somewhere, we have another step and we can do that all within Clay. So now we can see we've got basically a full overview from the website of what the company does. So now I'm going to duplicate this because we're going to use the same thing. The only difference is, I don't need that, so I can hide that. The only difference now is the input data. So analyze the, instead of the LinkedIn description, I'm going to analyze the homepage summary. Read the homepage summary. There we go. And just make sure that that is homepage summary. Cool. And then, yep, that's it. I'm going to save and run 10 rows. Cool. So we've got yes. So again, I just want to double check. Investment manager, focus on logistics, emphasizing stable growth, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Yep, they look like they're a fit. Strategic marketing. Yeah, perfect. That's not a fit. Purpose-driven venture capital fund. Yeah, perfect. That's a fit. Gammon Solutions, consulting firm. Yeah, not a fit. Okay, perfect. Cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to merge the columns. So I'm going to merge the firm, like the outputs. So the match here, yes, no, and then I'm going to the match here, yes, no. So now we have a full list of fit check. Cool. So now we have a list. Instead of 60%, we have 100%, right? And then now what I would do is I would just run this whole thing. So I would just do run all rows. I would run all rows, and I would run all rows. Cool. So now we want to find the email addresses, okay? And the reason why we do it that way, I mean, you can do it either way. You could find the email addresses and only run the ones on the emails that are valid. That is also totally fine. You can do that as well. I just would prefer to only run that. It depends on which one you want to do, really. But I would prefer to run the email addresses afterwards because I don't want to waste email credits on companies that aren't fit. But then you could also say the same thing. You don't want to waste OpenAI credits on companies that aren't a fit, but I think it's cheaper to do OpenAI first, check, and then find the email addresses. Right now we have a list of email addresses here, so we've got valids and all this kind of stuff. But we want to go to, so we're going to use find email. So find it's actually really, really good. I'm going to go to find work email, and we've got full name here, website URL. We want to make sure that this is the full website URL, and then I'm going to put a conditional formula. So only run if, and then I'm going to say if the email status is not valid or empty, and fit check is yes. So only run if email status or is empty. Cool. So essentially, I want to find the email address if we don't already have a valid email address, and obviously making sure that only if they are a good fit. So I'm going to do there, and then I'm going to put save and run 10 rows, and then merge the emails, and then I've got to find, I'm going to just filter the list, and then we'll have hopefully a final list of companies that are a good fit with valid email addresses that we've taken from Sales Nav. Instead of just assuming that that list is perfect from the get-go, we have put it all together, and then we have filtered the list, we've enriched the list, so we've found more websites, all this kind of stuff, so that we can expand and get as much coverage of the list as possible. Right? So again, you can see here, yes, no even found. Okay, yeah, so for example here, if I clicked here, this should say run condition not met. Yeah, perfect, cool. So then I'm going to run this whole thing, run all rows, and then of course you can, you could add in more different steps with the email side of things and so on and so forth. But for this, I'm just going to do one initial step. One thing to note as well, so Prospeo emails, when you export them, they are valid, like they are verified. From my experience, they usually have a pretty low bounce rate as long as they're the valid ones, not catch-all. Don't email those. If you do email those, make sure to put that through a catch-all verifier that is accurate. And same with find email. Find email emails are also verified as well. So yeah, just a tip on that side of things. So yeah, and then what I'll do is new column, and I'll put valid work emails. And again, if I don't find many email addresses, then here I could probably add in different columns, right? This is what I would do. So now I've got a merge column. I'll put in the first one, which is email. So this is from Prospeo, and I'll say only run if. Sorry, not only run, only output email if, and then status is valid. So basically saying only put the Prospeo email in here if the status is valid, and then I'm going to put in the final email here as well. Cool. And then I can filter for emails. It's not empty. Cool. And then we now have a list of prospects that hopefully are a good fit. Yes, no. Okay, so we want to just filter that as well. So fit check contains yes. Cool. All right, so now we have our full list. Now we have the companies that are actually a good fit, and we have the valid emails for those people. All right, so this now is our final list. Now, obviously, this is relatively small, so in future, I would expand this out a little bit, and I probably will do after this. I'm going to go through, go back and do the Sales Nav search again, and not have the duplicates as a check, to make sure that we do get the full list as large as possible. But you kind of get the point here. So essentially, yeah, we've taken a list from Sales Nav. We've put it through Clay. We've filtered out anything that whoever we don't want to target, who's not in our criteria. And that can be as extensive as possible, as much as you want. This is just the example that I'm showing you, but whatever criteria you have, obviously upload context, get AI to understand what you do, and then filter based on what you do. And then usually you can use things like the LinkedIn company description or the website and get more information from the website to be able to then analyze. So now, like I said, we have a full list of companies or people that we can reach out to who are in our space. I would then just go and review these, make sure they're okay, If there are any that aren't necessarily a fit, you can then go step back and then tweak the prompts and so on and so forth. And then obviously at this point, right, this is obviously a small list, but we could then potentially push this into instantly or whatever sequence that you have to be able to go and target them essentially. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. That is pretty much everything from my side today. If you're interested in us building these kinds of lists out for you, then feel free to book in a call in the link below. There's also templates and stuff I think that we have in the description as well, like different Clay workflows and stuff that you can plug and play into your business. So feel free to grab those. But yeah, I hope this video was useful, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.